For decades, Americans have treated Tornado Alley like a fixed place on a map. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. That's tornado country, except for this year. Illinois has seen more tornadoes than all of the traditional Tornado Alley combined, and it's not the only state over the last few decades to see this change. Tornado activity has been increasing across parts of the Midwest and Southeast, while some plain states have remained steady or even seen declines. At the same time, some of the deadliest tornado disasters in modern American history have happened farther east. So what's going on here? Is Tornado Alley actually shifting east, or have we been looking at the map wrong this entire time? Back in 1952, two U.S. Air Force meteorologists studying severe storms across the Great Plains coined a term, Tornado Alley, to describe portions of the U.S. that saw unusually high numbers of tornadoes compared to other regions. And to this day, the plains are still one of the best places on Earth for violent tornadoes. Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas continue to produce many of the country's largest and longest track tornadoes. But over the last few decades, scientists started noticing something strange. Some of the fastest growing tornado hotspots in America weren't in Tornado Alley at all. They were farther east, places like Illinois, Mississippi, Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee. And that's where this gets interesting, because the map that many of us grew up with may no longer tell the full story. Today, scientists usually break the U.S. tornado threat into three regions: Tornado Alley, the Midwest / the Great Lakes, and Dixie Alley in the Southeast. And while the plains are still extremely active, many Midwestern and Southeastern states have seen major increases in tornado activity in recent decades. Illinois is one of the clearest examples. Around the year 2000, the state averaged roughly 50 to 60 tornadoes a year. Now, some recent years have seen well over double that. And similar trends have shown up across parts of the Southeast too. Meanwhile, some northern plains states have actually seen flatter or even declining tornado trends. Now, before people in Oklahoma throw their phones at me, no, Tornado Alley is not disappearing. The strongest tornadoes are still much more likely in the plains, but scientists are increasingly finding that tornado activity overall appears to be shifting and broadening farther to the east. Now, we're not replacing Tornado Alley. It's more like expanding beyond it. And there's another layer to this. Researchers are also finding that tornadoes may be becoming more clustered, meaning fewer overall tornado days, but larger outbreaks when tornadoes do happen. So instead of storms being spread more evenly through the season, we're increasingly seeing massive outbreak days with dozens of tornadoes at once. And many of those outbreaks are happening farther east than people traditionally associate with Tornado Alley. But there's an obvious problem with all of this. Are we actually seeing more tornadoes in these places, or are we just better at finding them now? Because today we have Doppler radar, we have smartphones, we have storm chasers, we have social media, and we have better damage surveys. A weak tornado that might have gone completely undocumented in 1965 would probably end up on TikTok within 5 minutes today. Scientists know this, which is why many tornado studies intentionally remove weaker tornadoes from the data. And here's the really important part. When researchers focus only on stronger tornadoes, the total number of tornadoes across the country stays relatively stable over time. So this isn't a story about technology. Scientists simply aren't finding more tornadoes everywhere. Instead, they're seeing activity decrease in some regions and increase in others. That's the shift. But I also think there's something else happening here. We may be discovering that original Tornado Alley map was incomplete from the very beginning. Because think about it, tornado detection in the 1950s, no smartphones, primitive radar, limited storm reporting, and large parts of the Southeast were rural, heavily forested, and under-observed. So how many tornadoes in rural Mississippi in 1957 simply went undocumented? We honestly don't know. Now, here's the frustrating part. Scientists still don't have one clean answer for why this is happening. And researchers still disagree on exactly how much of this trend is caused by climate change versus long-term observational bias, which is finding more tornadoes. But most studies point towards several things working together: warmer Gulf moisture, changing jet stream patterns, increasing stability further to the east, and more drought in parts of the plains. The Gulf is really a huge part of this story. Warmer air can hold more moisture, and richer Gulf moisture moving farther north creates more unstable environments across the Midwest and the Southeast. At the same time, drought and heat in parts of the plains may be disrupting some of those atmospheric setups that traditionally favored tornado development there. And this shift matters for another reason too. The Southeast is already one of the deadliest tornado regions in America. Tornadoes are often rain-wrapped, difficult to see, and hidden by forests, and much more likely to happen at night. And unlike the open plains, many southeastern tornadoes move through densely populated communities where visibility is limited and warning response can be much more difficult. So some of the deadliest tornado disasters in the last 20 years haven't happened in the middle of the plains. They've happened farther east in places like Joplin, Tuscaloosa, Rolling Fork, Mayfield. So even a modest eastward shift in tornado activity can have enormous consequences for millions of people. But honestly, I think the most interesting part of this conversation is something else entirely. What if there was never just one tornado alley to begin with? Think about when Tornado Alley was first defined. It's the 1950s, radar is primitive, storm reporting was inconsistent, and many rural tornadoes went completely undocumented. But there's another issue too. The plains are just easier places to spot tornadoes. A giant wedge tornado crossing an open field in Oklahoma is hard to miss. A rain-wrapped tornado moving through forests in Mississippi at night? Much easier. So I don't think that the original scientists were wrong. I think they identified the most obvious tornado hotspot in America, but I also think regions like Dixie Alley and the Midwest may have always been more tornado prone than people realized. In other words, maybe Tornado Alley was never a single alley at all. Maybe it was just the easiest one to see. Now, scientists still aren't sure whether this eastward shift will continue long term. The plains are still extremely favorable for violent tornadoes and probably will be for a very long time. But the overall tornado risk map of the United States may be getting bigger. And if that trend continues, it matters because tornadoes in the Midwest and Southeast are often harder to see, more likely to happen at night, and more likely to impact densely populated areas. So, no, Tornado Alley is not disappearing, but the map may be changing faster than most people realize.